Now that the WordPress Full Site Editor is out of beta, I thought I'd show you how we can leverage Pinegrow to help make custom blocks and themes. In this video, we'll create the block theme by hand, then I'll show you how we can use a combination of WordPress core blocks and custom blocks to build out that theme. This video was originally created as a bonus for my mini course, where I showed you how to use Pinegrow to create classic themes. In that course, we already created the classic theme, so in this video, I show how we can create the block theme and use those classic theme templates to create blocks that we simply insert into the block theme. It was only after publishing that module in the course that I decided to also make it available on YouTube, so you'll probably hear me referencing other parts of the course as we go through the process. Don't worry, it should all still make sense. In a future video, I'll explore how we can create a block theme from start to finish leveraging Pinegrow along the way. For now though, this should help get you started. I'm Adam Lowe, President of Peak Performance Digital. You can learn more about me on adamlowe.io or my agency's website at peakperformancedigital.com. If you find content like this helpful, I'd love it if you could give me a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button. Also, if you're interested in my Pinegrow theme mini course, you can go to adamlowe.io and check out the details. In this video, we're going to take all that work that we did in our classic theme and we're going to turn it into a block theme. Before I get started though, I want to show you what it is that WordPress needs to create a block theme, because it's a lot easier than you'd think. Even though Pinegrow doesn't natively support block themes out of the box, it's still a very useful tool, and I think you'll see just how easy it makes creating a block theme. As you can see, we're in our demo site, and we currently have our demo theme activated. I'm using WP Local for this website, so I pulled up the website's directory so that we can create the theme from scratch first. I'll start off by coming into WP Content, Themes, and I'll just create a new folder in here called Test FSE Theme. Now mind you, this is just for demonstration purposes so that you can see just how easy this is. Inside that Test FSE theme, I only need two things. The first thing that I need is a style.css file. And then the second thing that I need is a folder called Templates with an empty file inside of that called index.html. I'm going to open our style.css file inside of VS Code and paste in our boilerplate style.css heading. All this does is tell us the theme name, URL, author, description, version number, and text domain. We'll save this. And now when we refresh our themes page on the website, you'll see that we have a Test FSE theme. All I have to do now is activate this. And you'll see that our appearance has changed over to the full site editing experience, where I can click on the editor, go into templates, manage all templates, and I have my index file that we created. I can start adding things to it, or I can add new templates right here from the WordPress interface. At its core, this is really all there is to creating an FSE theme. So I wanted to show that to you so that you can see what it is that we're going to be replicating inside of Pinegrow to make all this happen. All right, let's close this out now. And I just want to show you that I took our demo project that we've been working in, I created a copy of it, and I just called it no-code-theme-demo-fse. So this is the project that I'll be working on in this module so that I don't mess up the files that we've been working on in our classic theme. If you want to follow along, I suggest doing the same thing. But of course, don't feel compelled to follow along with this. You can just watch and get a feeling for what you need to do anyway. Okay, here I am inside of Pinegrow. And like I said, this is exactly the same project we've been working on all along. So all of this should be familiar to you. In order for us to change this from a classic theme to a block theme, we just need to make a few changes. I'll come over to the project tab just so that we can see what's going on. I'm going to start off by telling Pinegrow to create this in a separate theme folder because I don't want to overwrite what we've been working on. So I'll just come into WordPress, theme plugin settings, and I'll call this no-code theme demo FSE, and change the slug to no-code theme FSE. I do need to come into themes and create that folder for us. And I'll just copy this path and plop it there in my theme folder. I'll save that setting. The next thing that I want to do is I want to tell Pinegrow not to export any of these HTML files as PHP, but I do want to create a new folder called templates. And inside of that, I'm just going to create a new file called index.html. And no, I don't want to do anything with it. I just want to create the file. I do not want any content in there. Matter of fact, let's right click on this in Opening Code Editor to make sure that it did not put any of the boilerplate HTML headings in there. It didn't, so that's exactly what we want. I do need to tell it to export this to our theme though. So I'm going to right click on the HTML file, say copy to theme or plugin, and say yes. Now for each of these templates, I'm just going to come into the WordPress Theme Builder panel, and I need to hit the page settings for each one of them and say, don't export this page. Blocks, we're already not exporting. Customizer, we're already not exporting. Index, we need to hit. Parts, we're not exporting. And utilities, we shouldn't be exporting. Let's just come to File and say Save All. And it's going to tell me that I need to export the whole theme or plugin first. That's fine. Let's just keep clicking until we're done there. Let WordPress export the theme. And now let's just take a look at the directory that it created for us. So now we're looking pretty good here. We still have our assets, our blocks, our CSS, our INC folder, our PGIA folder, template parts, and templates. And we do not have any of the PHP files in the root folder like we did before. While I'm thinking about it, let me also open up this style.css file and just change it. Oh, and it doesn't look like we need to. It's already updated it for us. So let's switch over to WordPress and go into our themes. And we can see that we have our no-code theme demo, and we have our no-code theme demo FSE. Let's activate that. And now you can see that we have the full site editor feature in the appearance menu, but we also have our customize, menu, and widget panels. And this indicates to us that we're actually creating a hybrid theme, not a pure block theme. For most projects, I would actually recommend doing this hybrid theme until full site editing matures a little bit more. There are still some things that you'd want to be able to put inside the customizer. You almost certainly want to create classic menus, and widgets you probably don't need. But as long as you're not exporting widgets with your theme, you won't see this. We're only seeing it because in a previous lesson, we defined a widget. So let's come into the block editor. And when we open up templates, you'll see that we have our index template. And if we say manage all templates, you'll see that there's nothing else in there. So just like we did inside Pinegrow, we're now going to need to define each of these templates inside the WordPress block editor. Let's go ahead and start with the index template because this one might be the most complicated. So we'll just click into that and we'll say edit. And now we have our familiar block editor page. If we look in Pinegrow, our index template is going to have our header, a footer, a sidebar part, and a loop. All that we really need to do now is to take each one of these components and export them as blocks. And as a matter of fact, if you wanted to get fancy, you probably wouldn't even need to export all of these as blocks. You could mix and match them with the blocks that come inside of WordPress. But for demo purposes, let's just take care of it as is. So switching over to the tree view, let's take a look at our document model. I'm going to collapse this just so we can see what's going on a little bit better. All right, here you can see that we have our header with the class of site-header. We've got our body content. And again, this is set up as the site content. In there, we have that loop. And then we have our footer. Now, when we're creating this as a block theme, we generally want to define our landmarks like header, main, and footer inside the block editor, and then just create blocks for the content that's going to live inside of them. So let's switch over to the block editor and do that right now. So I'm going to start by opening up our sidebar, and then we'll open the block inserter. We'll go over to blocks. And here I want to insert a header, I'm going to start blank. And we're going to call this header part. Let's take a look at our list view. Let's delete this paragraph because the next thing that I want to do is get a footer part. And again, we'll start blank. I'll come back to the inserter again. And this time I'm going to create a general template part. We'll start blank and we'll call this main part. And I'll just move it up. And actually, come to think of it, I want to put this inside something else that has our main content and then allows for the sidebar. So let's create a group. I'll just say group. And we'll do a 2-column group. And then I'll take our main part, drag it in there, and we'll create another one for the sidebar. So now when we look at our list view, we've got our header, our row. I'm going to grab that sidebar, pop it in here. These are so hard to manipulate. Main and sidebar, and we can start adding stuff to them. I do want to show you though, I'm going to click on main real quick. And when I say advanced, this is where we can define the elements. So this element right now is just a regular div. I'm going to click on that and change it to main. And then for sidebar, I'm going to do the same thing and change this to a side. We'll notice that the footer already is called footer and our header is already called header. If I wanted to use widgets, I could do that, but instead I'm going to use them as template parts. So let's save this and we'll go back into Pinegrow and we'll create some blocks. And actually, now that I'm in Pinegrow, I'm seeing that there's a few things that I want to change inside of the block editor. So I want to add the class site-header to the header and site-footer to the footer. And then for our main, we'll leave it as is because it doesn't need this content sidebar content class that's telling it where to live in the page structure. So let's just add the site header and site footer classes back inside the full site editor, and then we'll create our blocks. All right, coming into our header, we've got our screen reader skip text link. If I'm not mistaken, WordPress is going to generate this for us automatically. So for right now, I'm going to ignore it. I might be totally wrong about that, in which case we can just add it back in again later. Now I'll take a look at the wrapper for our header. And it's defining the max width layout and setting our margin left and right to auto. So that's pretty good. I'll come over to WordPress and I'm going to define this as a block. I'll just call this index header block. And for the category, I'll do custom category and I'll put it under custom blocks. And we'll save and we'll export. And then in WordPress, I'm going to save this since we just made a change and refresh the page so that it can grab any new blocks. Come down here to blocks and all the way at the bottom, we've got our index header block, which I put below the footer. So let's grab that and plop it right inside of our header part. Okay, there it is. And we'll save this. And yes, I want to save both that part as well as our index page. And now let's just check it out on the front end and see what we have. So right now, all we're seeing is the logo. We don't have the menu defined. We don't have a lot of other things defined. Let's take care of that. We're just going to come in here and say menus. And you can see that it already has the display location for the primary menu. We still have the main menu that we created as part of our project. We just need to associate them. So we'll make sure we have that main menu loaded and say primary menu, save, then come back here. And now you'll see that we've got our menu parts loaded here. We'll come into our customizer, site identity, and make sure that we have a logo there. And we'll set our light logo. Site icon's already set. And we'll publish it. And now the next thing that we need to do is to enqueue our CSS files so that we can start seeing some styling. And back into Pinegrow, I'm going to use one of our utility files to enqueue those styles. So we'll just come over, and I think I will use utilities. And here I'll just create a new section. I don't necessarily need to do this, but I just like doing it for organizational purposes. And I'm just going to call this Enqueue FSE styles. And we'll add a div in there. Again, this is just so that when I come back to the project later on, I know what things are. So now that I have that div, do WordPress, Enqueue style. Oh, right, this can only be added to a link element. So in that case, let's just copy these link elements here from the heading. And I'll pop them in right here. And we'll add some enqueue actions on it. So we've got our theme.css that we're going to enqueue. I'll just call this PG theme, and that's going to be CSS theme.css. No dependencies. I'm not going to worry about version. For location, I want this to be on the website and in the admin. And we're just going to say register an enqueue style. And I'll do the same thing for our regular style sheet. And save and export. Back to WordPress and refresh. All right, now we're cooking. We've got our menu, we've got our logo, and all we have to do is keep adding block after block after block. Export those blocks from Pinegrow, bring them into the FSE editor. I'm not going to go through the whole site, but we will do a few more in here, and then I'll show you what the next step's going to be. So back to Pinegrow, and I've got way too many files open, so I'm just going to say close all files. And we're going to close that code editor. And I'm just going to open up our index.html file. And I want to work on my footer next. Never mind this button. This is going to be a back to top button that we do in another module. I'm just worried about the footer content here. And actually, now that I'm looking at it, check this out. You'll see that we've got this dark bar. This is coming from that class footer site-footer. So if we take a look at it, my site-footer has some styling applied to it. But I'm just going to take this wrapper and we'll make a block. Call it index-footer-block. And pop it in our custom category. Export the theme. Refresh. Edit site. Click on this big preview window to open up the index template. And here inside the footer part, I'll say browse all. And we will grab our index footer block. Pop in there. Save it all. And back to the page. And okay, it's picked up our dark logo. We set the light logo in an earlier step. It's pulling this from the widget area. And of course, it's not showing any social icons because we have not set those in the customizer. Remember, because we changed themes, all those properties that we set in the customizer when we did our regular Pinegrow theme don't carry over. So let's come back here to the customizer and we'll just add some stuff in. For our social links, we'll just do Twitter and Facebook. No need to add them all. Close out of our customizer. And this is all starting to look pretty familiar, huh? Now, if I wanted to get rid of the widget area that adds this, we can do that very easily. I'll just come back here into Pinegrow, and we'll select that company information smart sidebar area. And I'm just going to remove that. And we'll come back into our project, and we'll look at our utilities.html. And here you can see that we've got the contact info widget that we defined as a sidebar earlier. So I'm just going to click on that and we'll delete it. And we're going to export that theme. Yeah, probably need to save this first and then export the theme. And that should have rewritten our functions.php so that it no longer defines the sidebar widget. The last thing that we're going to do for that is we're going to come back in here to index.html And instead of making this a customizer field for the company information, we'll make this a block inner content section. So now we'll be able to use the block editor to fill this in. So let's save, export, edit site. And when we look into this, we'll see our footer part and our footer block. And now I can start typing. Delete this extra paragraph that I did not want there. And we'll save. Check it out on the front end. There it is. So you can see that this really isn't too bad. You really just want to lay the structure out inside of the full site editor and then create custom blocks for anything that you want using Pinegrow. Let's do a few more and wrap up this template. So here we've got our main loop. Now I've got a div for site content. I don't think I want to make that site content anymore. I actually want to make this a block. But first, let's take a look and make sure that I'm not doing something stupid. Yes, I would be doing something stupid. I got a div there. All right, got a main block and then a side block. That's what it is. Okay. So it's this main block that I want to work on. And inside that main block, I've got our page title heading and then our secondary page title heading for search results and other things. And then this section's got our loop in it. Now, because we've already defined main inside the full site editor, I don't want this to be main anymore. So I'm just going to right click on that and say transform, and I'm going to turn it into a div. Now I can take that div and add a block, and I'll call this index main block. Index main content, why not? And then for the sidebar, I'll open up our parts.html. And instead of defining this as a reusable template part for sidebar, we'll delete that. And now we're going to define each one of these as separate blocks. Now, in reality, the WordPress blocks to do that are going to be just fine. There's really no reason to create custom blocks for it. But I'm going to do it here as a demonstration because you might find that you want to style them in a way that Pinegrow does better, or you find that you want to add content in here that Pinegrow is going to make easier. So let's just do this now. I'll call this sidebar cat. And we'll do another one for sidebar tags. Save and export. Edit site. Now, so far, I've just been clicking here that's brought us into the index template. While it's certainly an easy way to do it, what I actually like doing is coming into template parts so that there's really no mistaking where I'm putting things. See, now that we can see all the template parts that we've created so far, and I know that I want to put my main block inside this main part. So let's open that up and edit it. And now I can make sure that the block that I add to index main content just goes in there. Save. I'll do a similar thing for the sidebar. And here in our sidebar, we'll add the sidebar category part and the sidebar tags. Save. So that when we look at our template, we can see our index template. It's already doing this for us. And we can see our header part has our block in there. We've got a row with our main part, with the index main block in there, and our sidebar part, and the footer part. But opening up the parts individually, frankly, just keeps me from making mistakes. Let's check it out on the front end again. Okay, we have all of our pieces here. There are some styling mistakes that I made because some of the classes that I use to constrain the content don't live in the right places. And because when I made this theme, I did it with CSS Grid in mind, not necessarily using full site editing in mind. But looking at it from a content perspective, you can definitely see that we're on the right track here. Now remember that this is the index template, so it's not actually pulling the front page content, it's showing us the main loop. This is going to work well for things like our article page and employees, but it doesn't do anything for pages. It's also only showing one article at a time. So let's do a little bit of quick troubleshooting and see what's going on there. So back into our index. And yep, here's our problem. I put the block inside of the main loop. So we're not actually looping through the content. We're just seeing the first thing on the list. And again, that's because of how I've had things structured. Let's delete this sidebar part since we don't really need it. I'm going to copy our block definition and plop it right up here. And remove it from there. We'll get rid of this grid No need for it. No need for this class that only shows us the grid area. And I probably don't need all these nested divs either. All right, now let's take a look at our main loop, make sure that we didn't really mess anything up. Our repeated list item is still the first li under the ul. So let's save that, export. There we go. Now we're cooking with gas. So that's better for our employees. Our articles looks better. Let's real quickly just do something here about this site width. And to do that, I'm just going to use our layout constrained and our layout xpadding classes. Let's just copy these. And over in the FSE editor, I'll edit our index template. And on this row is where I'm going to add the classes. All right. There's still some spacing issues, but again, for this demo, I'm just not going to spend time messing with all of that. What we are going to do, though, is create a standard page template. Let's close some of these windows. And this time I'm going to come to Edit Site. I'll click on Templates. I could add the template right from here, but here I'm just going to say Manage All Templates, and I'll say Add New. And I'm going to create this as a page template. And I'm going to make this for all pages. And we'll open that up, edit it. And now let's see what we have here. We've got our header, we've got our footer, and then a row with the sidebar and the main. It's basically taking all the stuff from our index template and copying it in here. And now that I'm thinking about it, I probably should have named these a little bit better. So this is what happens when I start trying to do a demo on the fly. This main part really only applies to the index template. So instead of calling it main, just general main, I'm going to see if I can rename it here. I cannot. Let's come into our editor, template parts, manage all template parts. I'm going to call this index main part. So now when we go into templates, page template, edit, we can see it's been renamed. That's fine. And I actually do not want this row. I'm going to remove that completely. And this time I'm going to just create a group with one div or section or whatever you want to call it. Did not want to throw it inside there. Undo. No, seriously, undo. I just want to move it up and have one section in there. And I want to call this main instead of div. And inside of that, I'm going to add a post title. And then below that, I'm just going to add content, post content. And then again, on this group, I need to add our classes that constrain things. So we can save that. And now we'll view it on the front end. And all right, it's looking pretty similar to what we had before. And I didn't need to create a template for the page inside of Pinegrow. It was all easy enough to do inside the FSE block editor. Let's open up a few other pages just to make sure. Yep, about looks good. Services looks good. Now we don't have a post template yet. So when I click on one of these, again, it falls back to index. But I can pretty easily just say edit site, manage all templates. I wonder if I can copy this. Nope, can't copy it. But I can do new, and I will create a post template, single item post for all posts. And we'll edit that. And just like we did before, we're going to get rid of that row. We'll add a group. We'll call it main. Actually, you know what? Let's undo this, because we could have used a lot of that same structure from before. We've got our 2-column row there. I just need to remove this index main part, and we can add another one. We'll add a template part. We'll start blank. And this time I'm going to call it our post main part. And inside there, we'll add our title and content. Yep, and let's do featured image too while we're at it. So now I'll come over to my articles. We'll check out Hello World. Cool, my styling's off. It doesn't seem to want to work for a custom post type, but it does work for our regular posts. Let's just take a peek. And yeah, that's the problem, is I didn't put my main part inside the row. I'll drop that back in there where it belongs, and we'll view this on the front end. There we go. Now we've got a regular post that works. I do think it's kind of interesting, though, that employees is not picking up on that. Let's take a real quick look and see if we can figure that out. Not template parts. Templates. Manage all templates. Single item post. So there must be something in here that is making this only for posts, not for posts and other custom post types. Let's do manage all templates again, say add new. And that's exactly it. I should have made this as a single, not a single item post. So let's do that. Actually, you know what? I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that at all. We're going to do it in the next step. So here's what we're going to do instead. I've got a full site editing theme that's been created. It's got a basic index template, a page template, and a post template. Even though the post template's wrong, we're going to fix that later. All of this stuff has been done inside of WordPress, and that's great if we're doing it on the site that it's going to live on. But if it's not, we need to find a way to get all this stuff out of WordPress and onto the ultimate destination site. Luckily, WordPress has our back on that. All we need to do is come into one of these templates and say edit. We're going to click on the options menu and we'll say export. This is going to give me a zip file with our theme contents in there. And now you get to see my download history. Exciting stuff, huh? So this zip file has all the stuff that was exported from Pinegrow, plus the templates and the contents of those templates that were created using FSE. So all we need to do to distribute this is to drop these guys into our Pinegrow folder and then tell Pinegrow to export this as part of the theme. So I'm just going to open up a new tab here and I'll navigate to our Pinegrow project directory. And in our Pinegrow project directory, we have the templates folder. It still has our blank index.html file. I'm just going to grab these guys, and drop them in and overwrite. This takes care of our 3 templates, but we also need to copy over the template parts. So going back up here, we've got this parts directory. And this is what full site editing themes use for their template parts. And in there, we'll have the HTML files that it created for those. So we'll just come back up here to the root project directory. And we're going to copy our template parts in. All right, I'll close this. We'll come back into Pinegrow. Let's close some of these things up. And now that I've got those things copied into our project directory, I'm just going to right click on the project and say reload. And now it knows about the parts directory and it sees those extra files in here. I just need to tell Pinegrow that I do want to copy these. As a matter of fact, I can probably just do it by saying yes on the root directory instead of auto. Let's make sure I'm not lying to you. Yeah, I was lying to you. I'll just say yes on each of these to be sure. This is generally something that you would do kind of as a last step to archive and save everything all together. If you were wondering what that error message was, it was yelling at me because the code that's in these HTML files isn't real HTML code. It's block code that WordPress knows how to edit. So Pinegrow was basically saying, what the heck are you doing? But the good news is I can come into WordPress now. Before I do this, let's take a look. I'm going to look directly at the theme directory inside of WordPress. This is the directory that Pinegrow is writing to. Up until now, it has not been writing to any of our parts. And the only thing that we have here in the template is our blank index.html. It's because all that stuff that we just exported from WordPress only lives inside the WordPress database. It only lives there until we export it and put it back in. So you remember how we messed up before and we created a single post template instead of just a regular single template? Well, now to fix that, all I need to do is come in here and just change this name to single.html. So that when it exports, and I do need to tell it, yes, I do want to copy that. So that when I export it, that coming into WordPress, export the theme. Yeah, I got to open something up. Okay, cool. I'll just open that up. There we go. And now when I say that and export the theme, we now see that it's exported all of our templates that actually have stuff in them. It's got that funny WordPress code in there. And it's taking care of our parts. So that when we come back into WordPress and do manage all templates, I want you to see this. The icons are going to be a little bit different. This icon right here indicates that it was created with a file, like we did when we first created the theme using that blank index.html file. These guys are saying that they only live in the database and that they were created by the user Pinegrow. Let's refresh this puppy and see what happens. There we go. Now we can see that we have an index template, a page template, and a single template, all created with files. And the only thing that's created that's still in the database is this single post template. That frankly, I'm just going to take this guy and delete it because we don't need it anymore. You'll also notice that a few of these say customized underneath. That's because we not only have the files in there, but there's also information in the database about these templates. So if I really wanted to, I could come in here and do whatever I wanted. And then later on, I can click on Clear Customizations to bring it back to the way that it is inside the files. Let's do a quick demo of that, and then we're going to wrap this up. No surprises here. It's a regular page template. Post template still looks good. Now employees, this is the one that barfed on us before. This is now showing the information from the employee's post type. So I'm going to go ahead and make a change to one of these guys. Maybe I'll just make a change to the page template. Let's open up our About page. Oh, and you will notice, this is also worth pointing out, in a previous lesson, we did add a block to this. We still have that block, but again, because the namespace has changed, it sees it as being something different. So when we come in and edit this guy, it's going to complain that our no-code theme employee grid doesn't exist. That's because it doesn't. We're actually using a different theme now, and that block is part of the old theme. But I can still add the employee grid in as part of this FSE theme. There it is. And we could do the same thing with the contact page. I'm just not going to bother right now. What I am going to bother doing, though, is changing this page template so that we can see the difference, and then we can see what it's like to reset it. So let's edit this guy. Template parts, post main. And here, what do I want to do? Let's add a block. I'll just add the post author block in there. Save it. And we're going to check it out. There it is. Post authors in there. Now we'll come over to edit site. We'll look at our templates again. I'll refresh this guy. And the reason why we're not seeing any change in the single template is because we actually changed it in the template part, not the template itself. So let me stop being stupid for a minute. And we're going to come back to templates. And we will take a regular page template, modify it, and in there, underneath post title, we're just going to add something that says, I did something stupid here. Because sometimes I do stupid things. So we'll look at the About page, and it says, I did something stupid here. The front page, I did something stupid here. So because that change that we made only lives in the database, I can come back into Edit Site, Templates, Manage Templates, and I can clear this customization, no problem at all. Just say Clear Customizations. As a matter of fact, I'll do it in both places, Clear Customizations. So that it brings me right back to where we were inside of the files that we exported as part of the theme. All right, so there is a little bit more that can go into this. This will definitely get a lot easier once Pinegrow has support for the theme.json file, but you get the gist of what you need to do to use Pinegrow for full site editing themes. It really isn't hard. You just need to think in terms of block themes instead of classic themes. And once again, I would say check out fullsiteediting.com. This is a fantastic resource that shows you all sorts of stuff about creating block themes. And frankly, a lot of the shortcomings that are in the block editor can very, very easily be overcome by just creating custom blocks inside of WordPress. Okay, so that's it for our topic and module on blocks. The next module has lots of smaller topics to handle things like local fonts, back to top buttons, custom fields, and other things that I couldn't easily categorize.